in life is as we get older, and we get to an older age, a lot of people just end up regretting a lot of their life. Now, when I look at regrets and all of those things, a lot of the things that hold us back from doing things that we really want or think of is fear, right? And, we don't go forward because of fear, because we're feared of being judged. We're feared, things are going to fail. We're fearful of a lot of things. And I look back, I've had some moments myself where I was like, if I don't do this, will I regret this for the rest of my life? And I tried my best to do things that I think are going to be beneficial, and they're scary as hell, right? I think some of us go through life and we're like, man, this is going to be scary. And we jump and we're like, where are we going to land? Are we going to land on our feet, or are we going to fall on our back, or whatnot? One of my favorite, motivational speakers is Les Brown. And I love, this saying that he says is, if you're going to, fall on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up. And that's how I kind of look at life, and that's how I approach it is, sometimes we're going to get knocked down, right? And there are going to be a lot of scary things, but, is that fear, that holds you back? Is that something that's really going to hurt you in the long run? Are you going to be set up for success, with the things that you want to do, or are you going to stop yourself from doing these great things, right? You've got to be able to live within yourself. And really, when you make decisions, I think a lot of us start to look at our lives. And for me, I'm a big analyzer, right? So I start to look at the, I guess, analytical sense, or, what's the word I'm looking for? But, I start to look at things, from a sense of, logical sense. That's what I was looking for. So from a logical sense, does this make sense? Does this make sense? So we start to look at things logically. And I think sometimes we forget to really listen to our hearts. When I started, Breathe Motivation, it was created from my heart. It wasn't created from my mind. I'm so afraid of being in front of people and knowing where you have been and, understanding where you're at. And I think I could have been so fearful, and I was fearful, right? I didn't want to be, when I started Breathe Motivation, it was a blog, and, I don't think I enjoyed writing when I was in, high school or whatever, but I really found a love for it, through a college course actually. So I started writing, and I was like, what if people don't like it, or however these things look? So I would always question myself. But what the thing that really pushed me was, if I don't do this now, will I regret it later, right? So I look at things that I start and I do, and I say, do I really want this? Are there things that I want out of this, or what is my intent of doing this? Is it just to do it because I wanted, I just wanted it on my little check sheet, right? I try not to do things like that. And I think some of us do that, and I've done that before, right? We just want to be able to check mark and say, hey, I had a blog or whatnot. But, that blog started to, it wasn't, the best, and it wasn't, the best website and all those things, but, I did it, right? And I started to do it, and then, I saw that I was like, what? I love doing the blog, and I'm just not doing it as consistent. So then the idea of the podcast came up, and then I've been doing this podcast for 132 days straight. So it's interesting to see where these things kind of evolve, but at the end of the day, if I didn't do any of this and create Breathe Motivation, I would regret it in the long run, because I'm not, I'm not doing, for some of these careers that I've had, or these jobs that I've had, I don't feel fulfilled in that idea of what I was doing, right? I can teach sales. I love sales, and I love the psychology of sales. And, there's a lot of great things that I enjoy doing with it, but I just don't feel that I can make that impact or make that change that I want to, like I can with the podcast or with Breathe Motivation, right? But I knew if I didn't take the risk in putting myself out there, being vulnerable, I would live on to regret it, right? and look back at, 80 years old, if hopefully I make it to 80 years old. But when I look at that, would I regret those things that, really, would I be upset that I didn't do it, right? So I had to follow my heart. I have to follow my heart in the things that I do on a day-to-day basis. And, I think sometimes logically it's important for us to look logically and understand that. But I think logical thinking creates fear because in our minds and our brains want us to be safe. And, it's going to point us in the safest direction. And it's the same way when we start to do things, we want to take the path of least resistance because, we want to be able to have the easiest route towards things. But we've got to be able to face those fears. We've got to be able to, listen to our hearts and listen to, kind of the intuition or whatnot, or however you want to look at it. You've got to be able to listen to your heart and understand that, if you want something bad enough, go and get it. And just know, at any point, you could get your butt kicked, you could fail, you could, this is how I look at things, right? I used to be so afraid of doing things that I wouldn't do them because I was so afraid of failure. But I had to tell myself, well, what if I'm successful in what I'm doing, right? So we start to look at the fear, and the fear starts to talk to us in our mind and say, well, hey, hold on a second. If you do this, you might be judged by your friends and family, right? And I had to tell myself, this isn't meant for my friends and family. This is, and it could be, I could help my friends and family, but I have to listen to myself and understand that this is what I want, because friends and family, they'll try to talk you out of doing anything just as much as you try to talk yourself out of things, right? Because they want you to be safe. They don't mean it. A lot of people don't mean it from a bad place, but they'll push and tell you, hey, I don't think that's the best move. I look at, like school or, quitting, I was watching a video on somebody that, had quit school to start a business, and everybody told them, no, you don't do that, because they wanted them to be safe. But that person, listened to his heart and said, this is my opportunity. And if I waited for this opportunity, later on down the road, what if it never, what if this was the right time? I was watching a video about Facebook, and, I forgot the guy's name, but he was actually the guy that actually gave them like a loan or, an investment into Facebook. I think it was $500,000. And, he was like, if he had decided, if Mark Zuckerberg had decided to start Facebook after he had gotten out of school or whatever that looked like, it would have been too late. That would have been 2006, 2007, and Facebook might not be what it is today. So there's a lot of things that go into the ideas of regret. And, do you think Mark Zuckerberg would have regretted not following his passion and finding his purpose and doing what he's doing, right? You look at it now and it would have been a bad idea. So stop fearing, the failure. Stop fearing the things that should happen, right? I used to get so caught up in that thought process and the what ifs, right? That's what created the anxiety. That's what created my panic attacks, or the what ifs. What if this happens? Then what would happen? And then it would just continue on this path. And I was like, man, I've got to get past this, and I've got to be able to live in the present, enjoy what I'm doing, and follow my heart and follow my desires from my heart, right? And get into things for the right reasons. And don't look back. Don't let fear stop me. And I want you guys to understand that fear should not stop you either. And you should be able to live within your heart. And no matter what anybody says, it's great to listen to people and kind of hear their opinions, but at the end of the day, your opinion is the one that matters.